I just want to say something about what it is. Why is it a low-budget film forum? Well, obviously it's about practical things. It's about people making first and second feature films who need to think about whether they're making films that they can make. Our inherited romantic tradition of organising jobs in film production is that somebody has a great idea and somebody else finds some money. And the person with a great idea doesn't want to hear about money. That's what we call freedom, and it's a romantic freedom. And sometimes it's a dream and sometimes it's a nightmare for the person who is the creative one. As a producer, I've never worked on a script where it didn't have a stage where it got better because there was not enough money. Having not enough money is not the same thing as having no money, and this is not about micro-budget film made by people who have savings. This is about public funding, broadcasting funding, professional work, proper pay, but it's also about how you approach development without having this romantic idealism. So it's not about an obsession with the words on the page. It's not about trying to build in more and more people so that you can go on having meetings and say, but we've got that scene there so we can make it a co-production in that country. We can get lawyers here who will allow us to get an extra $1 for every $2 we spend in Berlin, and that means we can do the post-production there. It's in some ways the opposite of that. It says, where am I? What do I like making films about? What are my strengths? What can I build on that I already have? And it means that the decisions that you make in development are incredibly radical. In the beginning of the 90s, I, together with some other people, organised something in London, which is called How Low Can You Go? Roger Corman was the director of studies. James Seamus, Christine Vachon, Charles Burnett, Chantal Ackerman, Claire Denis, Mike Figgis were amongst the teachers. It was an attempt to tap into a culture of people remembering that there was another way to think about how you develop a film, to actually have an aesthetic which was about your budget and a budget which was about your aesthetic, to give yourself the strength and the freedom to make a film which was under your control, and to look back at the filmmakers over film history who had used that freedom to make great work. So what we're proposing is that when you have development meetings, you're going to have development meetings about you and which film you can make next year, and it's a film made in a real marketplace where the filmmaker is collaborating with whatever we call the producer. So a producer-director team are both thinking about both jobs, so what they're addressing is the question of how to make their budget into the aesthetic. I mean, you've got the good and the bad thing here of the fact that you're in the middle of a market. If you had an agent, the agent would tell you, never sell something before it's cooked. So when you have that meeting, the point is you're getting to know somebody. If it works, your relationship with them will last 10 years. But if you try and sell them something quickly, you might not meet them again. So it's the beginning of a relationship where it's very important that there's pressure on you to say exactly where you are. If you're a director, not to be your own producer, not to guess about where you're going to make the film, simply to talk about your intentions as a filmmaker and to be as passionate as you genuinely are.
Alors, moi j'ai fait la fémis en tant que réalisateur, j'ai fini, donc je suis un vrai réalisateur sans film. Voilà, je suis un célibataire en fait, un réalisateur célibataire, un réalisateur sans film, sans production, sans rien. Voilà. Et je défends le projet Velvet Communist, qui est une passion amoureuse, qui est juste une passion amoureuse. Et voilà. Et donc l'idée c'était de filmer une passion amoureuse au premier degré où les deux membres du couple finiraient par se fiancer par le bras, à se couturer, à se fixer les deux bras ensemble. Voilà, c'est ça l'histoire du film. Là c'est le travail sur les mêmes visages, donc là c'est les visages normaux. Et là, en remplaçant, en changeant de nez, en essayant d'arriver vers quelque chose de similaire. Voilà.
C'est chouette.
Voilà, là, c'est mon body hacker, ZX. Un vrai body hacker, il a les deux X entre. Ça veut dire qu'il fait partie de la secte.
D'accord.
C'est un monde très très bizarre. Mais Et là, c'est la couture des deux bras. Donc un jour Yann se réveille, et là elle est en train de jouer une musique, une chanson d'enfance, tu vois, comme je sais pas Frère Jacques, mais elle lui joue au piano, c'est vachement beau, vachement touchant, et lui il se souvient, s'il fait de la musique, c'est parce que ça vient de l'enfance, quoi, ça lui rappelle des choses assez simples, et là il trouve à peu près sa voix, il joue avec elle, il commence à jouer une improvisation sur ce thème très simple, c'est très très beau.
Oui, c'est ça.
Vas-y, chante.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, but Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, but Humpty Dumpty had a great fall.
Comme ça.
Oui.
3, 4.
Humpty sat on a wall, but Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, but Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put him together again. But Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall.
Det er dig, der hedder Rune, ikke også? Hvad er du egentlig lavet, siden du skulle på ferie vest? De er jo lige halvanden gang større, end du er. De går og venter på dig. De ved godt, du kommer.
I heard you all got the budget. Good. Scrap it. We're not going to talk about budgets because we don't really believe that this film or low-budget films are based on the budget. We'd like to talk about, our thoughts on going to this, which is actually reflecting on the way we're working on the next project we're doing.
I finished film school in Copenhagen 2007, and around the summer of 2006, my childhood friend got sentenced to a long-term jail in Denmark. He was when we went to the gymnasium together, high school. He started to sell pot, and I started to write stories, and we still were friends. But suddenly, he was really deeply involved with some wrong guys, and he got a sentence for 5 years. I had an idea that Danish prison system was like a vacation, that it would be all right. I had an idea that Russian prisons and American prisons were hardcore, but I had no idea what was going on in Denmark. So this fascinated me, and I started to write. When I finished film school, me and René decided to develop it into a feature. And here we can talk about the low budget for the first time, because we had several budgets in our heads. We knew that we wanted to do this film. So we just wrote the script, and then we had budgets on how we could do it if we had to do it on our cell phones or on our VCR cams or whatever. But we knew we wanted to do this. But we also knew that it was quite impossible to build it in studios, because none of us had done that. Neither me or Michael had done any features before as directors. So we knew that to finance this would be a struggle. So one day I read in the papers that they closed down Horsens State Prison, which is the place we shot in. They moved all the prisons to a newer one. And we called René and said, if you can get us the prison, we can do the film for free. And we thought that it would take months of hard struggle producing for René to get the prison. But I think it was 3 days, and then René called, I got the jail for you, then go ahead, go.
Det er meget simpelt. Enten smadrer du en, eller så bliver du smadret. Kan du fatte det?
If you try to write your script cheap, if you try to reuse some locations, if you try to reuse some characters, you will automatically make it cheaper, and often actually also better, because you have the feeling of things coming together. Instead of all the opportunities in the world, the stories will somehow actually be a little better, for me. Of course, you couldn't have done the Godfather trilogy as a low budget. That would have been a totally different project. So it's not all movies like that, but especially the budgets we're working on in Denmark or in Europe anyway, you might as well save some of the taxpayers' money or the funding's money, and then actually get your film done.
My story is a very complicated thriller. It's an exciting, dramatical crime story. Kinsel has a lot of problems in the beginning of the story. He has a problem with his wife. They can't have a baby. He has a problem with his partner in the work, who is his brother-in-law also. And his partner is a part in a corruption case in the police department. Kinsel arrives to a crossroad. He has to decide. He has to show the truth to everybody about his partner, or is it more important to him to keep his personal relations because of his wife and because of his brother-in-law? And the story begins after this, with his trauma, with his tragedy, and he gets a new case far away from Miskolc. So a story works like a mirror. So it's a very complicated story with many turns.
Okay, don't justify. That's a really, when you're telling a story, you tell the story,
okay.
And you don't apologize or justify.
I see.
I have a profound question about structure. You said you used the word reflect, and I think that if you are going to show the whole of the backstory, I think that in a sense that the crash is the midpoint of your film. It's probably going to be a film that lasts at least 2 hours, maybe longer, 2 hours 10, 2 hours 20, so that the crash comes at the exact midpoint of the film. And he is, because of that crash, he is thrown out somewhere else. That's one way of doing it. So it's at the exact midpoint.
I see.
So they do reflect in interesting ways. That's a very brave, challenging way to structure it.
As we can see on the curve above, the systematic reduction of lung capacity is unstoppable.
Het is raar hè, dat wij doodgaan voor onze ouders.
Je bent redelijk niet van de rapste, hè, van dan, Tom? Of laat hij meisjes gewoon graag wachten?
I think we would never have done this kind of story if Hans wouldn't know the illness himself. So, because him having the same illness, that was for us a bit the reason why we dare to tell a story like that and to produce a film like that, because otherwise it's really, well, it's quite easy to, or there's a big chance that you end up with a Disease of the Week movie, which is a bit emotional, blah 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 blah,
manipulative, a melodrama, something like that,
and which really doesn't work. So that was one of our worst fears.
Lucas, op onze gezondheid, hè, man.
Ik heb je gemist vandaan, Tom. Ik wil meer. Ik wil alles.
Alleen, je bent een mukko.
Ja, en we gaan er allemaal aan dood, maar nu nog niet.
The only thing was that the sound post-production, that was our biggest problem, because we couldn't do the sound post-production as we normally would have been able to do. So what we did is that we worked with 3 different teams on sound editing, just to be able to fasten the complete process. And I think it also put it a lot of pressure.
I didn't like it one bit. At the grading I felt we were rushing things, and somehow it kind of lost didn't lose momentum, but we were, like rushing the project somehow. it was still okay with the grading and everything. We were quite happy with that. But then once we entered sound and the music wasn't ready yet because there was basically no time to really prepare it well because the composer was living in Holland and because so many things were going on at the same time, we often had overlaps of 2 different stages of post-production during the same day, which basically fucks with your mind. And I mean, after like continuous 2-3 months of stress, it just becomes a bit too much. I mean, shooting a movie, then editing it, all back to back. In retrospect, I would have never agreed on that deal, and I never will again. But
it was at that time
we had
like the good decision to make, because we really thought that film had a chance to get
it's
selected.
true.
And then if you get a film selected for the Festival of Cannes, you know, it's quite easy to have an international sales agent.
At one point I asked Dries, okay, let's say we finish it quickly, but I'm not going to be happy with the sound and the music, so can I redo that after Cannes? Do we have money for that? And Dries said no. And yeah, then we started this.
Well, I proposed that you would skip your fee, so...
You did? And I said yes, actually. And I said yes, and then you said, no, we can't do that either. Sorry.
Something like that.
The thing is, we really like each other, but at that point we had like huge battle.
But in the end, we didn't succeed in having the film ready for the Festival of Cannes, and the film wasn't selected, so it kind of worked.
And that made me so happy.
Blijf bewegen, Tommy. Tot uw laatste adem.
Okay, it's a very strange sentence in what you wrote, that maybe there is a war, maybe we will give up the idea that there must be a World War III. I mean, yeah, but it's not that easy. Either there is a World War III, and then there is a story of 2 people, or there is no World War III at all, and then there is a completely different story of 2 people. So
we keep the war, we keep the idea of these 2 characters going to Sahara in order to flee the war.
To make this long journey of 2 guys from wherever through Brest to Sahara, it can be made. It's no question about it. But how do you put this stormy, war-y environment around your story? That's the tricky question.
I was thinking of a really empty environment. As you're Hungarian, it's good because I was thinking of, for instance, Sator Tango or
Bélatar, yeah.
This kind of the sensation of a world collapsing, but with very few elements, just the rain, the mud, to have this quite empty environment, and mixing it with some scenes with but a very few one with a lot of crowd or battle. And but it will be not a futuristic war. It will be like in the Middle Age.
But the global war started with the big explosion.
Yeah, okay, so, the atomic bomb. Yeah, so
they will walk through ruins.
Okay, there's the post-civilizational.
For instance, in Brest, it's a former big harbor, military harbor during the Second World War, and there is a boat cemetery, boat cemetery.
Yes.
So that you can imagine them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
this is the symmetry of the civilization, and they are walking through this.
The ruins or the destroyed parts of the newest civilization looks like apocalyptic. That's the most terrible vision. I mean, that's very effective. It's good. So you can work with this. But still, to shoot any middle-age type of a war, any people fighting, to recreate a single shot, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
It's no question about it.
Yeah.
You know, concerning Bélatar, it's a very crucial question. How do you relate to his films? First of all, it's it's a year or more for searching for the location. You know, he really is hysteric about. He spends 2 years just to find that one place. You know, traveling up and down all around. The other secret is the long shot and his cameraman. So how do you make that long shots? So the real-time shots, you know? And this is with one very strong vision and very strong idea, this is absolutely fantastic. And if the idea and the story hasn't got that weight by itself, it's going to be terribly boring. But if that's the base, I mean, or many other that kind of films, that you have a very strong vision of two people in the middle of nowhere and in a very empty environment, and you have got the exact style and vision of how you're going to shoot it, then you can make a war, this kind of a war, what you are speaking about, very cheap and very easily if you have as strong visual concept of how you're going to make it. If you want to run up and down 20 people in the forest and fight with each other, you know, it's only up to your visual concept and talent if it will be like a childish amateur film or it will be a Béla Tarr strong vision, you know. So it's if you want to make it cheap and if you want to make it without money, which is the only solution because the other solution is billions. I mean, you don't make it in the middle, you know, either from peanuts or from, I don't know what kind of a Hollywood budget. So if you want to make it, then it's you need such a cameraman like Béla Tarr has had, who is just a genius, and he can make those images which makes you believe and enjoy those 15-minute long shots and everything. So you have to have a very original and very strong visual concept to make it cheap. How about yours? It's very simple. It's a love story. It's a love story, but it's really, I mean, it's not gonna be easy, my dear.
It's not really easy.
It's not really easy, I guess. Christoph, I tell you this: the secret is that can you write and make this story in a way that at the end, instead of feeling it's strange, it's not even strange, it's and it's, you know, odd, to arrive to the point that I feel sorry and it hurts for those people, you know? That is extremity, that's what I wanted to say. Instead of the extremity, I should get the feeling of that my heart bleeds for them. And that's very difficult, I tell you. Look, I mean, you can make films from peanuts. That's not the point. Yeah. What I think is the major point is that you don't make low-budget film. You make film. You make films which look like a film, which you accept as a film in a cinema. And there is a way to do it in a low-budget base. And that's the trick. Once you handle the low-budget film as a separate category of that really empty, very, very poor locations, very low number of actors and actresses and participants, and it's a very simple story just to make it cheap. Then you have a kind of a film which is called low-budget film, and everybody knows what to expect from it. What I'm speaking about is to make a film which looks like any other normal films, of course not the Avatar or whatever, but a normal, usual, medium size film, which was made in a very tricky, good, talented way from small money. Small money lots of invention, much freedom, as Ben has mentioned it, and that's the point.
From the beginning, we agreed with Agnes we want to do this film in Hungarian language because it's a real Hungarian film, and we really hate, both of us, we really hate when it's dubbing, when something is dubbing. And we did the casting for more than a year, and we really were about to give it up, and we started to ask our partners to think about what's happening if we start doing the casting abroad. We saw all of the Hungarian actresses. I sent in the countryside, in small villages, to clubs where fat people tried to losing weight, and there was a beauty contest for chubby and fat women, and I sent there a casting agent, and it was a really big problem because who organized this contest believed it's somebody who is sick. Okay, but finally we found Gáboréva in a social. How do you call Facebook? It's a social network. We have the same in Hungary called IVIV, International Who Is Who, and we find her them. I mean, we sent for all of our friends and contact. We are still looking for a girl who looks like Gáboréva, and once Gáboréva shown up and she was really great. She came in the last moment. Yeah, and in this casting, the other hardest thing was that Agnes really wanted to find a real person. I mean, her best friend looked like Gáboréva, and she died, and she was a bit inspired Agnes when she wrote this script. And it's always hard when the director wants to see somebody who is a real somebody on the screen. It's always harder because they always try to check the similarity, and that's why it takes longer time usually.
Nem is tudom, mintha ő lett volna a másik fele. Szent András Kórház krónikus osztály.
So what we do is essentially we support co-production. So we do not support 100% national films. The idea is to, on the one hand, put artists and crew members and producers together to make a project that has the potential ability to circulate across borders. So the idea is to make people work together, and it's cross-fertilization. I don't know how you can express this in a different way. It's a learning from each other. And on the other hand, by doing so, the film, most of the time, this is pure statistics, has the ability to cross borders more easily, and therefore travel in different countries beyond national boundaries, and that is also very interesting for the producer because it generates most of the time more revenues that allows producer to reinvest this money in new projects. We have the tendency to prefer art house, cutting edge sort of original films. There is unfortunately a little bit of prejudice in Europe against genre film. I was talking to our French colleagues here about comedies, and you are Hungarian, if I remember it right, and your part is a thriller. So in the past, we had the tendency of, considering that comedies or genre film in general travel with difficulty beyond boundaries, because, for instance, humor is linked to the national culture, and something that is very funny for an Italian is, not comprehensible for a Brit, for instance.
All right, so what we've been doing, which I think is quite interesting because it's quite useful for you to hear the key words, is we've asked everybody to essentially pass their script to the left. And then we give you 10 minutes, and you have the two conversations. And then so Pierre-Alain's film, you will pitch, right? And your film about the goats, you will pitch. Okay? Great.
It's the story of a man called François, and he found the address of his biological mother. And he's a very clumsy character, and when he arrives there, he just tries to get in the building and to get to the flat of his mother. He meets on his way there one waiter that is going to work for a party that is done in his mother place. He discovered that there's a party going on there. So he managed to exchange his role and take the role of the waiter for the party. So he's going there, and during the first part of the film, he's just being the waiter and making himself in lots of the situation when he's just ruining the party.
Thank you very much. How do you feel represented by that pitch?
Yeah, yes, that's a story. Yeah, that's a story. More or less.
I have to admit that you're extremely good at describing slapstick comedy. It's always really, really hard to write. And I'm not a huge fan of French comedies, therefore I want to produce one. Because, I don't know, it's really a challenge for me, but I've always encountered this problem that writers have a really hard time describing just physical comic, not through the dialogues, and you're really good at it. Although then, I'm happy to hear that it's a first draft because it's already quite solid, and I think that the forgetting the girlfriend is not just something that you did by chance. I think that this is one of the weaknesses of the script.
While the script is going on, as a producer, you're preparing a package. You're putting together the elements. What's the next thing for you?
To have an idea of possible cast, maybe to have an idea of the clumsy character, and in French actor, I think it's difficult to find.
Because I think the casting, I'm glad you said that. I was trying to leave it as open as possible, but it feels like a vehicle movie, and not in a bad way. I'm not saying vehicle movie is a bad thing, but it may change the plot who you have.
Do you think it's a French film for the French market?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you don't?
No. I think that there are really two ways of looking at it. Most of the French comedies basically don't travel, or they travel a little bit out of France because they are really aiming at a French audience. Therefore, they are usually built on well-known actors, usually comedians. So this is my question. Because if you want to do something that has the potential of traveling abroad, then you can address the production in a different way. The question of the cast is really critical, I think, because if you are planning on building your whole production strategy on having, let's say, a main A category actor, well-known French comedian, then already you have the mandate for the audience to go and watch the film, because they want to go and watch a film in which this actor, whoever he is playing. If you're thinking of doing something that is not necessarily for the French audience, then somehow you have much more freedom for the casting. You will also have much less money for the production of the film. This is a very expensive film, by the way. I hope you're aware of it. This is a highly expensive film, as it is, although there is only one location. I mean, it's written low budget here, so I was reading the projects, wondering whether or not.
But you need serious casting in order to afford the sets and the stunts.
Exactly. If you want to keep it in such a location with 200 extras while shooting, then you need to have, I don't know who it could be, but a very well-known French actor. I think it's a big dilemma because let's say with the third or fourth draft, the way it's going, you're probably going to reach a solid script, and you will be in a position to convince a well-known actor and to package the whole film for 4 million with Canal Plus and even a public broadcaster.
Great.
No, really? Yes.
Yeah, I think so. It's not too cheap.
Yes.
You're building a directing career.
Yeah,
here.
exactly. But are you sure that this is the way you want to do things?
Yeah,
are you sure that this is the film you want to do? Because then it's going to be just another. I'm not saying that the film is not going to be good, but it's going to be packaged as just another French comedy. Now I'm obsessed with two things as a producer. One of them is making sure that I'm setting the same goals, or at least that I'm understanding what are the main goals of the director, and that we are basically driving on the same road towards the same city, so to say. And I think it's really important, because if on one hand you want to do this quickly and have a lot of money to do it, and if on the other hand you have other expectations, then you have a problem. For example, something that is really simple. Let's imagine that you have, Gad Elmaleh, probably you don't know who he is, he's a very well-known French actor. Okay, let's imagine that you have him on board. It means that you are going to be, you will depend fully on his schedule, and he's booked for the next 2.5 years. Okay, so you have to wait for him to be available. What are you going to do in the meantime? You're a scriptwriter, you can write other scripts. But I mean, being sitting at home, waiting for Gad Elmaleh to say, okay, I think I have like 10 weeks there, can be a real nightmare, especially for a first feature film. That's one thing. And the other thing that I'm obsessed with as a producer is that I'm trying to build careers with directors. I'm not in for one film. I'm really willing to develop a relationship between the director and myself, and also to be thinking about what are going to be the next films. And that maybe we want to start with something that is rather small, and then it will be time to do something that is a bit bigger. And I'm not saying that the film is too big. I'm sure that there is a way to make it quite small, even keeping the 80 extras, or how many, I don't know how many there are. But there are big decisions that you should make now, and if your next step is casting, this is a big, big, big decision. Because if it's Gad Elmaleh, I mean, I don't know why I say Gad Elmaleh, probably it's not the actor you're looking for, but if it's Gad Elmaleh, okay, Gad Elmaleh is going to cost you 2 million. That's his fee for the film. So already it's not a low budget film anymore, because you still have to pay for all the rest of it, right? And this is going to mean that you cannot be alone in the driving seat. You need to have a mini major with you, which means that you're going to have a lot of pressure during the script writing, during the casting, during the shooting, and during the editing, not to mention the promotion. And are you sure that you want to get into this type of maybe you won't, and then it's fine. And I mean, I think that you can achieve this with the script you have. But this is going to be a tough, for a first feature film, I think it's really to be collaborating immediately with a mini major such as UGC or Pathé, because Pathé, for example, their policy is very simple. They don't get involved on a film that has any chance to reach less than 1 million admissions. This is their policy. It's a very simple one, but it puts a huge pressure on everyone, and especially on you. I mean, you're going to be put aside. Let's make it clear. Did you direct comedies before, short films? Or?
I did one short film, but 4 years ago. And
okay. Are you planning on?
Yeah, I think I will make another.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, I know.
Do a comedy one.
I mean, in a way, and I think you should do your big casting first, because you can create a relationship with your leading actor.
Yeah.
By making a short film,
yeah.
Then in a way, then you're building this family relationship.
Thank you.
The distributor, sales agent are your crew, as well as the cinematographers. Well, the way your film is shown is almost as important as the way you made it. And I think that if you make a great film, you're very proud of it, and it's shown in a little corner, here in a little TV in the snow. It just that doesn't make sense. I mean, so you have to keep working after the shooting, after the editing, after the film is completed. I mean, your work is not done when the film is finished. It's the beginning, actually.
I think with these films and with your films, it's very important to meet the people and to really establish a very good relationship with the distributors. So, for example, I mean, for me, my clients, in a way, are also my friends. I know them very well because the films we are selling is not just I say, I have Angelina Jolie or whatever. I have to really explain them why they should buy this film and so really be in touch.
Okay, so it's really important even for directors. I mean, it's not just a production thing. You have to know the geography of the industry in a way. You know, to know who works with directors you like. I mean, each time you admire a director, you have to inquire who is working with and who are the distributors, sales agent, producers, and you have to want to work with the same people. I mean, I think it's very important. And the whole point, I think, is to become part of a family. So you have to know who are the members of this family.